We are close to completing the infrastructure study that we discussed at the third public meeting. We have enlisted the help of experts in city planning, traffic management and strategy and wastewater treatment to help us build informed views of the implications of further residential development at the end of the Whangaparoa Peninsula. One of our findings is that the land between east of Whangaparoa Township and the end of the peninsula that is already zoned for development is enough to support Auckland targets for growth for the next 30 years. When we created the video with the Monopoly Board back in June 24, we highlighted that without any new zoning or new availability of land for zoning, there is already provision for at least 1,400 homes to be built in the Gulf Harbour area alone here on the peninsula. Our video showed some of the sites around our community where at some point we should expect to see new residential development. Of course, since the time of that video, we have seen some of the hard-to-avoid realities that the end-of-year announcement from Watercare imposes, and that may serve to slow down the activity for the next few years. However, some of the developments are well underway, and we thought it would be of interest to our community to get a little insight into how they are progressing. We thought we would also try to speak to the developers themselves and get some insight into the kind of communities they are building and ultimately how that may affect the existing context of Gulf Harbour. 88 of those homes are being built as part of the development that Harbour Developments are leading at the Hobbs Bay Estate. Some of us were able to attend their first open day on the 4th of August last year and take a walk around the area. We saw the old Hobbs homestead, and although it was winter time and the weather was not exactly spectacular, we could see the thoughtful layout and sense of space, as well as the magnificent views that anyone who lives here will get to enjoy day after day. Looking at what is mostly bare earth at the Hobbs Bay Estate, it is hard to imagine how this will all look when almost 100 homes are built in place and being lived in. I thought it would be interesting to meet with somebody from Harbour Developments and speak with them about the kind of community they are designing, their timelines, its design ethic and their intention for integration with the rest of the Gulf Harbour environment. But before I picked up the phone, I thought it might be a better idea to go and look at what Hoppers have built elsewhere. That would probably be a good background to any discussions that I might have. And so, on a hot summer day in January, I made my way to Marsden Cove, which is close to 2 hours drive away, about 140 kilometres from Gulf Harbour. We set off at 7 a.m. and after passing through the Brynderwyns, we soon came to the State Highway 1 turnoff by the GAS station for those of you who are familiar with that part of the country. It was a short drive from there to Matariki Drive, and we stopped for a coffee at a cafe next to a 4 square which seemed to serve what appeared to be quite a large marine community. It was a very relaxed atmosphere in a way that Auckland rarely is, and in the early morning sun we talked with a few people before making our way to the car and final kilometre or so of our journey to Marsden Cove. Everything felt very peaceful. Some wetlands on our left and some new homes on our right and yacht masts in the near distance, all in the shadow of the mountains on the other side of Whangarei Harbour. The setting is exquisite. We met Shana, who is the marketing manager for Harbour Developments, and sat down to learn a little of the Marsden Cove development. What I was really interested in learning was not the actual details of the homes and waterways, but more about the kind of developments that Harbour Developments have created and the communities that have eventuated. Shana talked about the layout and design of Marsden Cove, but it was very obvious that she was very motivated to help us understand the communities that she is now part of and which are a feature of all the developments that Hoppers have created. We walked around some of the beaches that have been created around the cove, and we came across a lot of people out walking, running and enjoying cycle rides with their families. The beaches in particular looked very inviting, and I was surprised to learn that anyone is welcome to use them. Marsden Cove does not have barrier arms with pin codes and security systems to keep people out. The pathways in front of all of the homes are all available not just to residents to walk down and enjoy, but for everyone to participate in. Shana knew an impressive amount of information about the water quality and the unique locks that have been created to maintain the different water levels that enhance the overall situation. Anyone is welcome to swim or fish around these waterways. There is a lot of green space, a lot. At 9:30 a.m. in the morning, there were not a lot of people using them, but Shana pointed out the Bream Bay Youth Camp, which not only uses the green spaces but also takes kayaks out onto the waterways and uses the beach close to their facility. It would be easy to think that all of this is sales patter from Shana, but it didn't feel like it. One story that she relayed to us as we walked around was of her relatives, her aunties Gay and Penny, who reside in Pauanui and Whitianga respectively within the Harbour developments based in the Coromandel, who begin to get ready for Christmas in October. Every single year they decorate their homes extravagantly and then travel around all of the retirement facilities that Harbour built and help them get ready for Christmas with what seems like a generous oversupply of Christmas decorations. Shana clearly adores her aunties and sometimes is involved in helping them to do this. These communities are connected. Penny then opens her home up to anyone in Whitianga who'd like to visit, and along with other like-minded people, hosts them in her home to spread some Christmas cheer. This community element of the Harbour proposition seems very important to Shana, and it takes some time to realise that this is not a bias or focus on Harbour communities, but in the wider communities in which their developments have been placed. Personally, I found this very encouraging. As someone who lives in Gulf Harbour, I had wondered just what kind of development would be taking place at Hobbs Bay Estate. Would it be gated? Would it have facilities exclusively for the residents of the development? Would it be an us and them situation? I had heard there may be a cafe or restaurant. I wondered if it would be reserved only for the use of the people who actually had invested in one of the 88 sections that were kind of inside the family. I asked Shana to explain her vision of the Hobbs Bay Estate and how she saw it evolving.
I'm Shana Harbour and I'm the Sales and Marketing Manager for Harbour Developments. Harbour Developments is our third generation family owned business and our family has been really deep seated and rooted with everything that we do. So I'm here and very lucky to be part of this project. Hobbs Bay for us has been quite a special project really. We've been looking to get back into the Hibiscus Coast where my family settled here from England almost 100 years ago now, where I grew up actually as a child as well. My father spent many of his years here. It meant a great deal to us and it was quite a personal project to be, it is a personal project to be involved with. So to start a project like Hobbs Bay Estate, having such a long background and kind of, I suppose, belonging to Whangaparaoa because my great-grandparents started here 100 years ago and I grew up here, only moving recently. So to kind of get back an enterprise on the Hibiscus Coast was, priority. It was something we really wanted to do and an opportunity to take for the Burrell family to entrust their land with us and do something special for us. We really felt a sense of propriety, but we really had to respect and do something quite special with it. That aside, it's more or less our model anywhere when we come to do developments. I always kind of pride ourselves by saying we're not your typical developer. Yes, we could go and do your average development. We can go and cut everything up into squares and we can try it for the maximum yield, but we don't want to do that. As a generational family, it's kind of, it was something my father talked about. It was something his father talked about, was creating something that was going to last a lifetime, but something that for generations can be kind of enjoyed. So Hobbs Bay was about creating something that was going to be special to the land, special to the families that had been there before, special to my family. But that was different to what was on the Hibiscus Coast as well. We've always kind of created unique developments, so it was just right up our alley. Being able to kind of create larger lots and make the most of the reserves and give the access to the beach to the rest of the community as well, meant that we could open up the whole development and we could make it really something special. Sure, of course we could have done this as a closed development, but why? It doesn't make us excited. We want the community in, we want this to be a hub, we want it to be an exciting place where people want to come and visit. We want people down, families down at the beach. We want to see kids running around jumping in the water. I'll be bringing my kids here because I think it's a beautiful area. If I wasn't living In Northland, at our other development, Marsden Cove, this is probably where I would be too.
Here at the end of the peninsula, it takes a little bit of imagination to see what this could become, but clearly it is going to be an impressive and consistent addition to the Hopper portfolio.
So my name's Ettiene. I'm the project manager at Hopper Developments and specifically for the Hobbs Bay Estate. I have been working on this project since May last year, and from that point we're currently working on stage 1 and 2 of the 5-stage development, and it's actually going really well despite a very complicated and hard project that's been given to us. It's unfortunately one of the few developments that that I've ever worked on that we have over 156 resource consent conditions. That people probably don't realize the complexity of that, and so we've been navigating that, and that comes part and parcel with ecological issues, dust control, sediment control. We have lizard monitoring, bird monitoring, all those items that one takes for granted, which we have to do now. And it's been a tough job, but we've had really good working relationships with the Auckland Council and with the ecologists and all the authorities so that we can actually have a smooth sailing project. So to this point, it's been really good. We're currently looking at having completion of stage 1 and 2 probably by the end of April, should all go well. Hopefully the rain doesn't stop us from doing anything further. But yeah, ultimately that's where we'll be heading, and beyond that we'd also be looking to have an open day within the next month or so, just so that the public can come and have a look at the development, because we'll have the majority of our roadings in and our curbing in, and pretty much everything except for the asphalt on the roads itself, so people can actually get a sense of what the development is about and how Hoppers as a brand is different to your normal run-of-the-mill developments with wider roads and a lot of planting and stuff. So just one thing people should be aware of is that in this development, I know people would have noticed we've cut a lot of the trees on the boundary down, but as part of our consent we'll be replanting, and this development will have over 15,500 new plants planted in the development for the greenscape and stuff, and it's something that we really model our developments on, and have a green and family space, not just a concrete jungle. So I feel that that's what makes us really unique, and then connecting it with the beach as well, that you actually feel like you in nature, but you still 10 minutes down the road from a shop and a cafe and stuff like that. So that's currently where we're at with the development.
The really unique thing about creating a development like Hobbs Bay Estate is, for us, wanting that community involvement. So part of we've gone through the journey of kind of starting the development. We had our first open day last year, and many probably don't realise that was quite an exercise through health and safety to get people on site. But we saw that there was so much public interest in it that we just thought we had to get this done. We had to do it. We had to make a way to get people through and kind of see this really incredible area that we've started to create. So we're actually working on doing another open day probably at the end of next month, and you'll be able to see more about that. But again, it will be about getting people on site, being able to see how the development's progress, getting down on the beach, walking through our public and park areas, and kind of really getting to explore and getting a feel of the space. Because again, we want the community here. It's really for everyone. Not only is it for the residential development, but you want more. You want the people. You want everyone there and enjoying it and really kind of owning the space. So even if you're not interested in perhaps buying a section or building a new home, come and have a look for yourself. I'd love to see you there. I really want to share the area for you because it is just beautiful. It's really stunning. We're in such a lucky position in Auckland to be able to bring this to you and bring this to the Harbour coast.
As I walked around the Hobbs Bay Estate, I was intrigued to see the original homestead sitting amongst all the busyness of the construction traffic. My mind wandered to think about the stories that these trees and these buildings could tell, the changes that have taken place over the time since they were built back in the 1960s. Ettiene told me they had found records of invoices and transactions from that point in time. The homestead was built in 1868 with invoices dating back to 1966. It seems pretty special that they would find a way to keep this homestead and even feature it as a place where people can come and enjoy some time with friends as they enjoy some lunch or a coffee and some time for some conversation and respite. This attention to detail and focus on thinking about what makes a community actually work is inspiring. And to know that this is not only reserved for the people who come and are able to make Hobbs Bay Estate their home, but that it will be open to any of us to explore and enjoy. The homestead, nature walks and beaches, all inviting us to participate and engage. Like many of you, I have also read of the potential for a marina here on the southern side of the development. I am sure there are some challenges to be negotiated in bringing that to life, but having now seen something of the ethos and thoughtfulness of the Hopper family and the real-life examples of the communities that they have created and integrated with, I feel optimistic about what the Hobbs Bay Estate represents for the Gulf Harbour community and to the wider area of the peninsula. I really do believe that Gulf Harbour can become a bucket list item for every visitor who comes to Auckland. And I can only see the Hobbs Bay Estate as bringing something even more to our community and this place in New Zealand that we all call home. Over the coming months, we'll bring further updates on major developments that take place around our community. Shana and Ettiene have offered to participate in any further communication regarding the Hobbs Bay Estate. We may even run a live stream with them with the opportunity for you to ask questions during the discussion. In the meantime, maybe I'll see you at the next open day.